I had been itching to play through a good 2D platformer recently. I've been bogged down by JRPGs and action-adventure games. I'd like to think I'm caught up on all the major game releases of the year. I mean, I have a list of everything I want and when it's going to be released over the next year, but there was a small indie platform that flew under my radar. Without the help of Twitch, I probably wouldn't have ever found this amazing game. I've been playing this game non-stop since I picked it up at the beginning of March, and it's quickly risen to one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time. And that game is Pizza Tower. Tons of other people got on the Pizza Tower train before me though. This game had a ton of Patreon support. All the donors for this game were featured in the credits, and even though it scrolls pretty fast, the donor section takes up nearly 5 minutes of the entire credits. I'm not complaining, it's just fairly impressive. Researching for this video, I found all of the perks donors could receive, like the builds for the game as it was being developed. Stuff like this kind of goes to show how when a developer provides good content like this in return for support of a game, people will want to pitch in even more. I do really wish I had heard about it so that I could have supported this amazing game as well. But hearing me talk about how well funded and supported this game was probably isn't why you clicked on the video. You probably came for the high speed, reactionary gameplay that makes this a must play for any 2D platformer enjoyer. The game starts with an opening cutscene showing Peppino Spaghetti in his struggling pizza restaurant. That is, until a floating pizza head, aptly named Pizza Face, comes to his restaurant and threatens to blow it up. Now, Pizza Face has a giant tower in the distance that overlooks Peppino's restaurant, so Peppino has to go and stop Pizza Face before he uses the giant laser at the top of his tower to blow up Peppino Pizza. The game works as an explorative 2D platformer. Levels aren't like other games where you move from one end to the other in a start-to-finish type of way. You're actually thrown into a sprawling maze-type level, where your goal is to collect a bunch of pizza toppings and beat up enemies. Doing this racks up a lot of pizza points that adds to your score. There are different levels of pizza toppings that you can collect. There are the small ones that add 10 points to your score, larger ones worth 100, and then there are toppings. These are little topping guys trapped in cages throughout the stage that you'll naturally unlock as you go through it. Not only are they worth 1,000 points, but they also give you $10 outside of the stage, which can be used to purchase a boss door from Mr. Stick. Along with the toppings, you can also pick up the janitor, Jerome, who's typically tucked away in all of the levels. He can grant you access to the janitor room, which has a secret treasure located inside. This gives you 3,000 points. As you beat more and more enemies, you get a combo going, with it only running out after you haven't killed an enemy for a while. The higher and higher your combo raises, the more pizza points you'll be given once your combo meter runs dry. Thankfully, Peppino can't die in a traditional sense. Getting hurt by enemies only causes you to lose a bit of your score. Even falling into bottomless pits only results in a funny screen showing Peppino injured from the fall, and you're thrown right back into the beginning of the room you were in. The levels typically all revolve around a central theme. There's one based on a graveyard where you surf around on corpses and fight ghosts. Another where you're in a desert with aliens that suck you up into their ship. And my personal favorite, one straight up titled War, where you're given a gun to use for the whole stage and have to make it all the way through as a timer counts down. If it reaches 0, the stage is bombed and you're thrown out of the level. Along with a theme, each level typically contains a transformation. This is where you run into an enemy, pick up a companion, or even switch to another character, typically with a unique moveset and abilities that aid you in going through the stage. In the graveyard level I mentioned earlier, you turn into a ghost that can fly around to gain speed and burst through barriers. What about the fun farm level? Well, here you pick up Mort the Chicken, who sits on your head, gives you a double jump, and lets you swing off hooks in the level. Mort is actually from his own game, titled Mort the Chicken on the PS1. Torta Pizza actually got approval from the developers of Mort the Chicken to use their character in this game, which is pretty neat. There are several levels where you take control of Gustavo and his big pet rat, Brick. These two are adventurers who are searching for the tower themselves. Here, Gustavo rides around on Brick, and the duo can double jump, wall jump, and float around when Brick eats a balloon. There are even unique screens for if you fall off the stage while controlling them. Even though your main goal is to save the Toppins from their cages and rack up a massive score, you also have to find the Pillar John enemy. Once you kill him, it's pizza time. Pizza time is where you have to make your way back out of the stage by going back to the entrance door. A timer pops up and you have to reach the entrance door before it reaches 0. If the timer does, however, reach 0, Pizza Face spawns in the level and chases you until you're caught or you escape. Now, Pizza Face can phase through walls and is a one-hit KO, so this can help provide a lot of pressure, which is actually kinda nice to race against the clock and make sure you aren't caught. Even though earlier I mentioned dying doesn't work like in other games, this, as well as the boss levels, are the only way to get thrown out of a level. With the timer counting down, speed and precision are of the utmost importance. Thankfully, this game provides a lot of solid movement options. You have a dash button where, the longer you hold it down, the faster your dash becomes. You go from Mach 1 to Mach 4 and can run up vertical walls if you jump onto them or go onto them naturally from a slope. Once you get to Mach 3, you can just run straight through enemies. The majority of them stop and scream when they see Peppino barreling towards them. This is the main reason you can go full speed without taking damage from an enemy who may be holding a weapon. Speaking of enemies, while a lot of these guys are easy pickings, they have a lot of design details that I appreciate. Nearly every enemy is food or animal related. You got the giant cheese globs, the shrimp thugs, potatoes, and the eggplant mobile. Even though you can easily just run through these guys, they typically always fit right into the levels they're placed in. With their animation and movement styles, you can see a lot of personality put into these characters. I mean, just look at this guy. He obviously doesn't look like he wants to be here. Or maybe this guy. He just wants to golf, and it sucks when you kill him because he's just trying to have a nice day out. There's a ton of detail thrown into this game that helps it stand out from other games within the genre. There are the enemies that freeze once they see Peppino dashing towards them that I mentioned earlier, but there's also a ton of other stuff. Included in your control arsenal is a dedicated button used to taunt. A lot of the time it's just used to add a bit of flavor to the game, but using it near specific enemies and bosses can actually cause them to immediately go into their attack pattern, allowing you to kill or damage them without having to wait. A super taunt can also be charged up by getting a long combo going. Performing this makes all the enemies on screen explode and keeps your combo going. In every level there's a TV placed at the top right corner of the HUD that shows Peppino's current state. This changes whenever you're in a transformation, if you get damaged, if you're running at top speed, along with several other conditions. There's truly no reason for this to be here other than providing some added humor in the game. While I mentioned enemies earlier, the bosses have a ton of care and detail put into them as well. Your first foe is Pepperman. From the title screen of his battle, you can tell he's an artist of sorts. In battle, some of your last attacks involve you carving a statue out of him from stone, which he then stops to check out. You can tell he's got a bit of an ego. After beating him, once you go up to the second floor, there's Pepperman next to a giant piece of graffiti, showcasing Peppino as this horrid monster and Pepperman as the underdog superhero to save the day. He's honestly so great, but he's just not quite my favorite. The second boss is the Vigilante, who's just a cheese slime wearing a cowboy hat. Apparently, Pizza Face tricked him into thinking Peppino was a wanted fugitive, which I only found out after viewing the wiki. This battle is a bit different than the first. At the beginning, he gives you a pistol to make it an even duel. There aren't a ton of great design details in this battle. I mean, I do love his animation and attack patterns, the most notable of which being that the ghost of the vigilante's grandfather comes up to attack you as well. But it's a pretty simple battle overall. I do like seeing him in the cafe outside of battle enjoying a nice cup of coffee, as well as finding out he actually owns the farm from within the fun farm level. Now for the best, and I mean the best boss in this whole game, it's the noise. The noise seems to be the first thing from this game that was created, which isn't surprising since he's extremely similar to that one Domino's mascot, the Noid. He started off as playable in early beta builds, but was later relegated to a boss, to now being teased as a potential playable character in future updates. His battle is so much fun and has so much life poured into it. Some of the highlights are that he taunts you just as much, if not more, than you taunt him. This opens up for you to attack him. His attacks, those being skateboarding, a minigun, dropping bombs shaped like him from a hot air balloon that also looks like him, as well as a ton of others. To kick off the second phase, he even screams just like Peppino when a giant balloon shaped like him crashes into the battleground. The battle ends when his girlfriend, the Noisette, drags him off stage and takes off his last health point. It's stuff like this that makes me really love this game. The fourth boss is the fake Peppino. His moves mirror the real Peppino's, where he can dash fast to attack you, grab and attack you, super taunt you, and it shoots out projectiles, and a bunch of other stuff that makes this a unique boss battle where you're fighting a clone of yourself. The most unique part of this battle is probably the ending, where you're dropped into a hallway which has the fake Peppino turn into a giant monster that chases you down it until you escape. Even though you don't get one hit KO'd from this, I didn't know it going in and ended up feeling really on edge as this was going on. Now for the whole point of Peppino entering the tower, the pizza face battle. This will include spoilers. If you really want to play this game and enjoy every part of it without being spoiled, please skip to the timestamp on screen now. When you enter the boss room, you actually interrupt Pizza Face as he's in the middle of a shower, to which he runs away to the roof of his tower. The battle with him is pretty simple overall. You attack him with your typical arsenal, he can spawn enemies and slam down into you. I do appreciate the unique animations when fighting him. His hurt and recovery animations are neat to notice. But the real battle happens when Pizza Face opens up to reveal that Pizza Head has actually been piloting him this whole time. And yes, these are two different characters, even though they have extremely similar names. I don't want to get into every one of his unique attacks, but here are a few that stood out to me. He throws a TV similar to the one in your HUD that bounces and can damage you. He pulls up a bunch of Pizza Knights who can fall and damage you. He pulls out a blue gun that sprays bullets everywhere. Oh? You thought that was it?
Wrong!
He actually gets right back up and brings up every single boss you've fought throughout the course of the game. It's not surprising that this battle took me forever. All these guys have their same movesets, except that the battles are much shorter since they only take 4 hits each. By this point, Peppino's just done with it. I failed to mention that Peppino screams in this game a lot, and it's the classic cartoon goofy scream that you've probably heard in a bunch of other stuff. But here, he just wails on the bosses. I don't blame him, the man's just trying to save his restaurant and here's all this trouble in his way. But after beating them, you're back to fighting Pizza Head, who has a different, more simplistic moveset from before. Probably the easiest part of the battle. Finally, after all this, the battle is over. Up until this point, you might have noticed that traversing through the hub of the tower almost seems like you're meant to run back through it, similar to the levels. Well, that's the right idea. Now you have to escape the crumbling tower, picking up all your friends and foes along the way to get everybody out safely. Now that you're out, the game is finally over. And now we see Jerome mourning the loss of his brother, Pillar John. There's actually a bit of lore behind this. Pillar John and Jerome took care of the tower together, until Pizza Face cursed Pillar John to hold open all the levels and the tower. Now that everything's over, there's a bunch of art and cutscenes showing everyone hanging out together at Peppino's as the credits roll by. You'd think this is the end of everything, but there's a ton of incentive to go back and continue to play and improve. Each level has a ranking system, and boy, do I love ranking systems, with the more points you get indicating a higher rank. These go from D all the way up to P. The only confusing one is P. This is when you have to start a combo in the first room of the level and continue it all the way until the end while collecting nearly every source of points, finding and completing all of the secret rooms, discovering the secret treasure with the help of Jerome, and even completing a lap 2 of the level. Lap 2 is when, after destroying Pillar John, you go all the way back to the beginning of the level, and there's a portal that takes you back to where Pillar John was, and you have to go back to the beginning all while the timer continues to tick down. Pizza Face will often spawn in since you have to make 2 laps through the escape. These are extremely difficult to achieve, but they're a good thing to work towards. At the end of the game, you get a ranking based on how much completion you've gotten. This all depends on completion of the levels and bosses, as well as treasures and P ranks. Peppino gives you a final judgment at the end of the game, where he rates your performance. Sadly, my first judgment was, "That's the one, officer." So now I'm playing through it again to get the perfect completionist rank of, "You are quick as hell." Pizza Tower has really emerged as its own game. While there are comparisons to Wario Land and Sonic, with everything I've laid out in this video, it's become its own great game with a dedicated group of developers who have poured so much love and uniqueness into this game that makes it a must-play for anyone who enjoys the 2D platforming genre. I'll probably continue to come back to this game years later, since it's not only so good, but it really incentivizes you to come back and get a higher score. It's stuff like this that makes me love this game, and it's really emerged as the most unexpected great game of 2023. So with all that being said, if you haven't played this game already, go and do it, because you're really missing out if you don't. Thank you all so much for watching. I hadn't planned on making this a video, but this game has really shown itself to be one of the highlights of the year. If you have any interesting stories playing through Pizza Tower, or anything that you guys love, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe so I know you all want more videos like this, but until then, I hope you all have a great day.